Can everyone still see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. It looks like we still have a couple of people trickling in, so I'm going to give it one more minute to see who else joins, and then we will get started. Okay. Welcome, everyone, to the Long Island Sound 2025 Comprehensive Conservation and Management Plan in Public Information Listening Session. A couple of housekeeping items. So we have a couple of Zoom features available to you. First off, if your audio settings are not working, switch to audio. If the speakers aren't working, and I'm going to type this into the chat for anyone who might not be able to hear. If you are having technical difficulties, please use the chat function. We have a webinar team member on who will be able to help you troubleshoot anything that might come up. We have a Q&A available, and this is where you can put any questions that you have during the Q&A session at the end and throughout the presentation. We ask that you do put all questions into the Q&A, as we will not be monitoring the chat for questions. We are going to use the chat for sharing links on our ends, and also just to keep it open in case there are any technical difficulties. And closed captioning is available for those who need it, and it's this the show captions button. Today's meeting is going to cover an overview of the Long Island Sound Study, an overview of the 2025 Comprehensive Conservation and Management Plan revision process, as well as an overview of the draft CCMP content. And then we'll give instructions on how to submit a public comment and open it up for question and answers at the end, for anyone who might have questions on that process or anything you heard during the presentation. So now I'm going to pass it over to Mark for a quick introduction before we jump in.
Thank you, Isabella. And
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mark Tedesco. I'm Director of EPA's Long Island Sound Office, and we provide support overall for the Long Island Sound Study. I just wanted to really acknowledge the work of literally dozens of people who have contributed to a new Long Island Sound plan, a new Long Island Sound comprehensive conservation and management plan. We've got a number of those partners on the call today. Our mission here is to just help orient you to the plan and how to provide your input, because ultimately what we really are looking for, it's not just the plan that we developed, but it's the public's input on that plan. And so we really hope to hear from the public, hear your comments on the plan, how to improve the plan. It's open for a 60-day public comment period. And we really appreciate all of your interest, all of your input and engagement throughout the process. So I'd like to thank ERG for support through this process, and thank again all the partners, all the people who have contributed to drafting the plan. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nikki Tachiki with the Environmental Protection Agency. And Nikki has been leading the team to help us develop this draft plan that's been submitted for public comment. And she'll walk us through some background, both on Long Island Sound and the plan and next steps. So with that, Nikki.
Thank you, Mark. So we wanted to start really quickly with brief background on the water body that's bringing us all here tonight, which is the Long Island Sound. It is 110 miles long, 21 miles at its widest point, and 1,300 square miles in area. It has over 600 miles of coastline, and the Long Island Sound is an estuary, which is a place where saltwater and freshwater mix. 90% of freshwater comes from 3 rivers in Connecticut, the Housatonic, Connecticut, and Thames rivers. And the Sound has openings to the sea at both its western end through its connections with the East River and at its eastern end at the Race. In total, the Long Island Sound watershed, which is also known as its drainage basin, drains an area of more than 16,000 square miles, covering virtually the entire state of Connecticut, portions of New York, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, and New Hampshire, as well as a small area at the source of the Connecticut River in Quebec. A little bit about who we are as the Long Island Sound Study. EPA, New York, and Connecticut formed the Long Island Sound Study in 1985 as a bi-state partnership consisting of federal and state agencies, user groups, concerned organizations, and individuals dedicated to restoring and protecting the Sound. With the Clean Water Act amendments in 1987, Section 320 of the Clean Water Act officially established a national estuary program. At the request of the states of Connecticut and New York, Long Island Sound was officially designated an estuary of national significance under this new program. Congress created this program and authorized it to carry out the activities listed under Clean Water Act Sections 119 and 320. On the slide here, you'll see a picture of all of the logos that make up the Long Island Sound Study Partnership. And we do have a number of people on this call today representing these various organizations. A quick background on how the Long Island Sound Study coordinates and operates as a program. We do have various committees, and work groups that help operate the program, starting with our policy committee that consists of the EPA Region 1 and EPA Region 2 administrators, as well as the New York and Connecticut environmental commissioners. Next, we have our executive steering committee, which consists of EPA division directors, New York State DEC assistant commissioners, and the Connecticut DEEP bureau chief. Next, we have our management committee, which is which consists of federal, state, interstate, and local partners. And then on the bottom left-hand slide, you'll see our two advisory committees. The first is our Science and Technical Advisory Committee. It's made up of academia, scientific and technical organizations, and their purpose is to counsel on scientific and technical issues. Next, we have our Citizens Advisory Committee, and they are a cross-section of stakeholder groups. They focus on transmitting and communicating stakeholder concerns, providing advice on public education activities, and communicating with constituencies. Next, we have our Long Island Sound Program Office and Implementation Team. And the primary function of those teams is program coordination, project management, and providing support to our various committees and work groups. And then lastly, you'll see a list of our technical work groups. We do have work groups focused on climate change and sentinel monitoring, environmental justice, habitat restoration and stewardship, communications, outreach and engagement, sustainable and resilient communities, watersheds and embayments, water quality monitoring, federal partners coordination, and nitrogen coordination. Okay, and so the main purpose of why we're here tonight is because our 2025 Comprehensive Conservation and Management Plan, or CCMP for short, has been published for a 60-day public comment period spanning September 23rd through November 22nd. So what is our Comprehensive Conservation and Management Plan, or CCMP for short? It is the plan that outlines goals, objectives, and actions to restore and maintain the health of Long Island Sound and its watershed, which is the lands and waterways that drain into the Sound. And who uses it? Primarily, the Long Island Sound Study uses it to guide our conservation work around the Long Island Sound. The Long Island Sound Study original management plan was written and developed in 1994. And that is the management plan our program used to guide operation, implementation of activities, and funding. The management plan went through a major revision in 2015, and the 2015 plan set a course of action over 20 years and established 20 ecosystem targets to achieve. The 2015 plan maintained an emphasis on water quality and habitat protection and restoration. It also added emphasis on public involvement and engagement, climate resiliency, and environmental justice. So now, 10 years later, we are revising the plan once again, and we do hope to publish a new revised 2025 CCMP. So just to provide some brief examples of accomplishments that have been achieved under our existing management plan to date. Long Island Sound Study partners have restored over 2,102 acres of coastal habitat and opened over 429 river miles for migratory fish passage. Since the 2000 nitrogen total maximum daily load, Connecticut and New York cut more than 47 million pounds of nitrogen annually from point sources alone. Nitrogen management actions have decreased the 5-year rolling average in the maximum area of hypoxic waters by 54% compared to the pre-2000 average of 205 square miles. And the Long Island Sound Stewardship Initiative is working to protect and enhance 33 flagship coastal preserve sites in Connecticut and Long Island, New York, promoting public access, education, and passive recreation. So our Long Island Sound CCMP is being revised. The new plan will be published in 2025, and it will outline the goals, objectives, and actions to restore and maintain the health of Long Island Sound and its watershed. The revised plan will set objectives to be accomplished in the next 10 years and actions to be achieved in the next 5 years. And we do view this revision as an opportunity to expand engagement and commitment to restoring and maintaining the health of Long Island Sound and its watershed. Just a little bit of background of how we got to the place in publishing the revised plan. Starting really in late January of this year, our Long Island Sound Study partners began drafting the text for new goals and objectives under this revised plan. In the spring of this year, Long Island Sound Study held 3 virtual engagement sessions and 3 in-person engagement sessions that were open to the public with the purpose of listening to and collecting thoughts, concerns, and ideas for the plan's development. Using that input, in the summer of this year, Long Island Sound Study partners continue to develop and draft actions under this revised plan that would achieve the objectives and the goals. And which brings us to really the public comment period and tonight. We have our virtual public information sessions really to spread the word that we want further input from the communities, from the public, from interested organizations on the draft plan. And we will present an overview of the content and provide instruction on how to submit your comments. Just a few important notes. Long Island Sound Study partners will be presenting information on what you will find in the completed draft plan. Because we are in the 60-day public comment period right now, it's important that we receive all public comments in writing. We will leave time at the end of our presentation today for questions and answers, but we won't be taking notes on the comments shared during this information sessions. Instead, we will be encouraging you to submit written comments so we can have a record of them. The Long Island Sound Study will synthesize and publish all public comments that we receive, and we will publish a response to every public comment as well. So it's important that you provide your input in writing to us during this time. So with that, we'll jump into really diving into the content of the CCMP. Here's a quick snapshot of the table of contents. You'll see that we start our CCMP with Section 1, an introduction. Section 2 goes into our revised vision statement, mission statement, our new program values, and our goals. Section 3 covers the monitoring plan. Section 4 is our funding strategy. And then we have our references, our glossary, and our acronyms list, followed by a number of appendices. Appendix A covers the progress that our program has made under our existing 2015 CCMP. Appendix B covers detailed descriptions of our objectives and our actions. Appendix C is a key to our actions supplement. Appendix D covers climate vulnerabilities to achieving any of our goals. And Appendix E provides information about our program authorization and organizational structure. From here, we'll dive into more detail of Section 2, which is the vision, mission, values, and goals. The revised vision statement for the Long Island Sound Study is Long Island Sound and its watershed have clean waters, healthy habitats, thriving wildlife, resilient coasts, and an engaged public. The revised mission statement for our program is the Long Island Sound Study leads a collective effort to restore and care for the sound and its watershed. The new values that we have established to guide the operation and implementation of our program activities include actionable science, respect and trust, environmental justice, and adaptive and inclusive management. And our revised CCMP contains 4 overarching goals. These include clean waters and healthy watersheds, thriving habitats and abundant wildlife, sustainable and resilient communities, and informed and engaged public. Each goal has objectives, which are specific outcomes to be achieved by 2035 that will directly contribute to the goal. And each goal also has actions. These are broad strategic activities to be taken in the next 5 years to achieve an objective. So with that, I'll invite our Long Island Sound City partners, Tim Hunter and Chris Eagler, to discuss our first goal, clean waters and healthy watersheds.
Can everyone hear me? Okay, thank you, Nikki. Thanks everyone for coming out tonight. So I'm Chris Eagler. I'm from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Our goal is to restore and maintain water quality in Long Island Sound and its watershed. So to come up with our objectives, we really wanted to identify the most impactful factors affecting water quality in Long Island Sound. So in those conversations, we came up basically with 4 pollution categories. So that's nutrients, pathogens, toxic contaminants, and marine debris. And then watershed health being more of a land use type of objective. So now I'll just go from left to right and give a little more information on each of our objectives. So obviously nutrient pollution has been a major issue affecting Long Island Sound and the watershed for many, many years. The issue has been being addressed vigorously. And despite, as Nikki mentioned, despite the nearly 70% reduction in nitrogen from point sources to Long Island Sound, there are still many issues associated with nitrogen pollution. We're still experiencing extended hypoxia in many embayments, harmful algal blooms, and that photo there you could see is a fish kill. So this objective, I mean, I could let everyone read it, but the real gist of it is to reduce nutrients and get a better understanding of nutrient sources, main contributors, and ways to reduce them. So I'll just provide one example of an action. This is the first action for nutrients. It's implement nutrient reduction actions across the Long Island Sound watershed with an emphasis on the greatest contributing sources and their impacts on Long Island Sound and its embayments. So moving over to watershed health, this is again more of the land use type of objective. So it's to improve the ecosystem health of Long Island Sound through conservation and positive land use practices. That's a photo of a riparian buffer. So obviously, as you go into the upper watershed, that's very important as far as conserving water, protecting water quality, in those tributaries that end up draining into Long Island Sound. So an example of an action here is implement nature-based solutions and other practices that improve and maintain water quality and ecosystem health. Moving on to pathogens, as many of us know, bacteria pollution causes dozens of beach closures every year across the Sound and disqualifies thousands of acres of shellfishing beds for harvest. So this issue affects many people across the watershed. So this objective is sort of twofold. Part of it is to reduce pathogens by addressing issues in wastewater systems and sewer systems, as well as increasing monitoring to get a better understanding of pathogen hotspots to better inform management and hopefully reduce beach closures and shellfish closures. Toxic contaminants, this is more of a research focus objective, as you could see in the objective statement there. It's really looking to research, monitor, and get a better idea of the main contaminants affecting Long Island Sound and start producing plans to mitigate them. Finally, marine debris. Everyone knows this is a major issue in many places. And this is one of the more visible issues that anyone near the Sound or near any body of water could see. So this was a very, important issue to cover. So this one, achieve trash-free waters by increasing cleanup efforts and preventing additional debris from entering, particularly from the upper watershed. So an example action with this one is support the removal of marine debris located within the coastal boundary and Long Island Sound. And Tim, unless you have anything to add, I think that's it.
Good job, Chris.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris and Tim. Next, we'll invite Harry Yamalis to discuss Goal 2, Thriving Habitats and Abundant Wildlife.
Thank you, Tim and Chris, and good evening, everybody. My name is Harry Yamalis. I work for the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protections in the Land and Water Resource Division, where the state's Coastal Management Office is housed. I'm one of the co-chairs of Long Island Sound Studies Habitat Restoration and Stewardship Work Group. Here present on goal number 2 of the CCMP revision. It promotes thriving habitats and abundant wildlife. You can see our goal statement at the top of your slide, and our team developed 4 objectives for this, which you can see toward the bottom. Directly below each one is the objective statement. Each objective has a few associated actions, which you can find in their entirety in the draft CCMP. A summary of these actions includes, for coastal habitat, to promote the installation of living shorelines, mapping the extent of coastal habitats to look for long-term trends, and of course, to continue to restore coastal habitats. For offshore habitat, to promote marine spatial planning, to support the Long Island Sound Seafloor Mapping Initiative, and to promote the stewardship and restoration of offshore deeper water habitats and the conservation of species that live here. For habitat connectivity, it's to continue to connect streams to Long Island Sound through the removal of barriers such as dams and culverts, to promote regional collaborations to build regional capacity for habitat restoration, and to use remote sensing tools with field verification to target the restoration and protection of habitat patches and stream miles to maintain and enhance connectivity. And finally, for conserved open space, it's to protect high priority coastal habitat from development through land acquisition and increase access to conserved lands, particularly for underserved and overburdened communities. We also have a defined measure of success for each of the 4 objectives, and those are from left to right: to restore 1,000 acres of coastal habitat in Long Island Sound Studies coastal boundary, to support and implement 25 restoration and management projects focused on seafloor habitat mapping, data collection, and species assessments, to restore and or protect 100 habitat patches, plus reconnect 175 miles of river and migratory corridors in the Connecticut and New York portions of the watershed, and to conserve 5,000 acres of open space within the Long Island Sound Studies coastal boundary. Thank you for your time, and I'll be happy to take any questions and suggestions at the end of the presentation. Thanks.
Thank you, Harry. Next, we'll have Sarah Schechter and Sarah Powell discuss Goal 3, Sustainable and Resilient Communities.
Yeah, thanks, Nikki. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Powell. I work for New York Sea Grant, and as Nikki said, I'm joined tonight by my Connecticut Sea Grant colleague, Sarah Schechter. We are 2 of the 5 writing team leads for the Sustainable and Resilient Communities, or SRC, as we like to say, goal. And as you can see on the slide, the SRC goal is to empower communities to plan for and respond to environmental challenges in ways that prioritize well-being for all. So our team developed 3 objectives that you can see on the screen here, and all of these objectives target areas that we see as being critical areas of need. So increasing the knowledge and capacity of decision makers to advance resilience initiatives, supporting planning that reflects community resilience priorities, and encouraging the implementation of sustainable resilience projects to help communities adapt to flooding and other climate impacts that they are facing. So our team developed 2 actions under our first objective, which is informed decision makers. Both of those actions are aimed at growing the number of municipal, nonprofit, and community leaders that receive training and tools to support increased adaptation to these environmental challenges. And then under our second objective, community-driven resilience planning, we have 3 actions that we think, or we hope, will help increase the number of Long Island Sound municipalities that identify resilience priorities through either local and or regional planning. And the goal is that over the next 10 years, all 135 municipalities within the Long Island Sound coastal boundary will do so. And then finally, under our third objective, resilience initiative implementation, our goal is that a minimum of 200 initiatives to improve community resilience to flooding and other environmental challenges will be implemented over the next 10 years. We have 5 actions under this objective, and these actions are related to community capacity for implementation of projects, development and adoption of resilience regulations, codes, and ordinances, nature-based solutions, infrastructure improvements, and adaptive management to ensure long-term project success. And so in some, the writing team, that worked with us over the past year, that crafted this goal objectives and actions, we think that empowering communities, as outlined in our goal, will hopefully help to advance the resilience of Long Island Sound communities to flooding and other environmental challenges. And in partnership with the objectives and actions you've already heard about, as well as the informed and engaged public ones you'll hear about momentarily, will help set the stage for our communities to be very sustainable and resilient into the future. And like Harry said, we look forward to hearing what you think and receiving your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And lastly, we'll have Jimena Perez Viscasillas and Maggie Cousins present Goal 4, Informed and Engaged Public.
Thanks, Nikki, and good evening, everybody. So last but certainly not least, we have goal number 4, which is informed and engaged public. And this goal reads, aims to inspire and empower the public to appreciate, value, and protect Long Island Sound and the waters that flow into the sound. And for this goal, we have 3 objectives. The first objective is related to public access and sense of belonging, and it aims to increase and improve opportunities for everyone to access and appreciate Long Island Sound and the waters that flow into the sound. Under this objective, we have actions to create new access sites, to improve existing sites, and to help people feel more welcome at these sites through our programming and through different kinds of events. The next objective is related to education and environmental literacy, and it aims to increase, improve, and expand the environmental literacy of people interacting with the Long Island Sound watershed. And under that objective, we have 4 actions that include creating and promoting educational programming for different kinds of user groups, including the general public, teachers, students. It also includes the creation of educational materials and tools to inform the people about Long Island Sound, and actions to encourage collaboration amongst groups that work on education in the region. The final objective within this goal is fostering stewardship and sustainable behaviors. And this one aims to increase public engagement in environmental practices that protect and conserve Long Island Sound and its watershed. Within this objective, we have 5 actions. So we're covering a couple of things in there, but some of them focus on promoting or encouraging people to get involved in volunteering and monitoring and participatory science. We also have actions to promote stewardship both in the sound, so for beachgoers and boaters, as well as at home and in the community. And we also have actions related to better understanding how people relate to their environment and to supporting campaigns more locally, so groups interested in implementing stewardship programs at a local level. So I think I'll leave it at that, and I'll pass it over to Nikki again.
Thank you, Jimena. Okay, so next we also wanted to mention that in addition to all of the content that our Long Island Sound City partners have just presented in the CCMP, we are also considering a name change and a logo change for our program. The Long Island Sound City logo and name have remained virtually the same since the 1980s, and you can see the progression of our logo on the slide. And we have received some feedback that our name is confusing and slightly outdated because Long Island Sound Study is not just a study. We have also heard or we've received feedback that it would be easier for outreach staff to explain what our program does with a different name that doesn't focus on us being a study, and that removing the word study will more accurately describe the sweep of our program's efforts. We do have one strong reason for keeping the name, which is that the Long Island Sound Study is a trusted name to our partners and recognizable. So we are using this time to also ask for feedback on a potential name change. So when the management conference created our Long Island Sound City name, it was to emphasize the need to conduct science to better understand how Long Island Sound was polluted and what could be done to restore it. The partnership had launched numerous scientific investigations and initiated water quality monitoring programs. And the data and information that resulted became the basis for comprehensive restoration efforts. And while science is still an integral part of our program, the management conference also believes that such studies are in service of taking action of coordinated implementation. And therefore, the program is considering changing our name from the Long Island Sound Study to better reflect the commitment to action. So we have the following options being considered for our name change. They include Long Island Sound Estuary Partnership or Program, Long Island Sound Restoration Initiative, and Long Island Sound Restoration Partnership or Program. So we will be soliciting public comment on which of these three options best characterizes the program today as part of our public comment period. And we will adopt the new name when we publish the final 2025 Comprehensive Conservation and Management Plan. The new name will be incorporated throughout the new document and will signify adoption of a new program name. Okay, at this time, the most important takeaway, I think, for tonight is really how to provide your comments. So there are two ways for you to provide public comment. The first is through our CCMP public comment form, and we will be dropping the link in the chat momentarily. And we'll also be sharing the public comment form on our screen just to walk you through it so you can see what to expect. The second way to submit your public comments is simply by emailing your comments to longislandsoundplan2025@gmail.com. Please send us your comments anytime from now through midnight, November 22nd, 2024. And at this point, we will be showing you our CCMP public comment form. Okay, thank you, Isabella. So the beginning really just has introductory text to let you know our public comment period spans from September 23rd through November 22nd. We are inviting specific comments on our revised vision statement, mission statement, goals, objectives, and actions. And we do want to let you know that we will be posting all of the public comments we receive in addition to responses to every public comment at longislandsoundstudy.net/plan, hopefully by early 2025. So a couple of quick tips when providing comments. We do ask that you please be constructive and specific, providing detailed suggestions for rewording or expanding sections of the draft plan that you feel are in need of improvement, and where possible, referencing specific actions, objectives, and page numbers would be very helpful. We also ask that you please be respectful and explain your views as clearly as possible and avoid the use of any profanity, personal threats, or other disrespectful language. So scrolling down, we wanted to note that all questions are optional except for the first three questions. These first three questions are focused around just your name and if you're representing any entities or organizations in providing these comments. Moving down to starting with question 4. So the remaining questions are all optional. You are free to answer as many or as few of the questions as you'd like. And starting with question 5, it focuses on our name change. So we do list the options we're considering for our name change, and we have an open space for you to provide any feedback on whether you prefer any of the options over the others. You're free to provide rationale for why you might advocate for one name over another. We do welcome all of your thoughts there. For question number 6, we have a question on if you have any feedback on the new vision statement, mission statement, or values. Again, if you can be as specific as possible in, for example, providing language you might want to see reflected in any of these statements. Or if you can let us know if anything is missing, that would be most helpful. Question number 7 focuses on, do you have any comments on the 4 goal statements? So you'll recall our Long Island Sound Study partners introduced each goal in addition to the goal statement accompanied with them. And we just like to know if you're supportive of them, if you think any of them are missing anything. And again, I think specificity would be helpful. Question 8, are there any topics or issues that are not addressed in the 4 goals that you think should be included? Here, what we're really looking for is whether, there are any topics or issues or concerns that you'd feel aren't reflected within the 4 overarching goals of our CCMP. Question number 9, are the objectives and actions for Goal 1, Clean Waters and Healthy Watersheds, clear? Is there anything you disagree with, anything you would modify, or anything missing that you think should be addressed? In this response, we just ask that if you are going to comment on specific objectives or actions, please reference the specific objective or the specific action that you're commenting on so that we can make sure to incorporate your edits in the correct places. So questions 10, 11, and 12 are the same thing except for the 3 remaining goals. So we'll jump down to question 13. Do you have any comments on the monitoring strategy? So you'll find that in section 3 of the draft CCMP, which is available online. And then question 14, do you have any comments on the funding strategy? You'll find that in section 4 of the draft CCMP. And then question 15 is really just our catch-all. Do you have any other comments on the draft plan that you wish to share? Please feel free to send us any additional comments or thoughts that you have on the draft CCMP in this space. So with that, I think we'll transition. Oh, thank you, Isabella. So yeah, just again, please use our public comment form or send your comments to us via email by midnight of November 22nd. And then I'll pass it over back to you, Isabella, for our Q&A.
Okay. Thank you so much for all of that great information. So we're now going to go into the Q&A section. So for that, if you have a question, you can use the question and answer box that you see on your screen. And I will read aloud any questions that we get. You can choose to submit questions anonymously, or you can submit them with your name. Either way, we will not share your name before reading the question. So I will give everyone a minute. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so this can feel more like a discussion. And if panelists want to go on camera, we will get started as questions start rolling in. To get us rolling, we do have one question already. And that question is if we could get an example of what a strong public comment looks like. You can hear my cat. And I don't know who wants to take that, Mark or Nikki or one of the writing team leads. But an example of a strong public comment and how you will address or respond to those comments, which Nikki shared a little bit about already.
Maybe I'll start and welcome hearing from others. I think the important thing is to even just hearing your reaction to the plan. Is it addressing the things that concern you? Is it addressing the issues that are important to you? If not, where is it missing? And do you have any specific suggestions? Anything you would like to see done that is not identified in the plan? So I would encourage, in terms of any comments, is don't assume that any perspective that you have is not of great value to us. We'd like to hear any of your reactions to any aspects of the plan. But, most importantly, is it a plan that is addressing your vision for what Long Island Sound could be and the actions needed to help get us there. And, I'd welcome other thoughts on that as well.
Thank you so much, Mark. Does anyone have anything to add? Okay, well, we do have a question, and it says, list 2025, heavy emphasis on nitrogen reduction, but very little attention to the pathogens from human waste. I couldn't find any attempt to reduce the contributions of septic systems by connection to wastewater treatment plants. Septic systems and wastewater treatment plants contribute equally to the nitrogen load in Manhasset Bay and far more than fertilizer. Is this something that is addressed in the plan, or is there a section of the plan where this can be found? Information on nitrogen reduction.
I can go ahead and address that really quick. Yes, so we do have a focus on pathogens, wastewater upgrades, as well as septic tank conversions within the clean and healthy watersheds portion. It is specifically addressed in there, but if you think we're lacking in any aspect of it, just go review that section and give us a strong comment. And if you can't be specific, because that helps a lot.
Thank you, Timothy. Yeah, and when we talk about being specific, that means you can refer to specific sections of the text and say what else you would want to see there. If there's a word that you think is too general, what could you change that word to be more specific? So yeah, definitely go back and take a look at that. We have another question, and this one is, are the effects of flooding of mostly cultivated farmland from the operations of numerous power dams on the Connecticut River taken into any consideration? At least the ones in New Hampshire are reportedly causing more and more severe flooding, which likely puts more undesirables into the river, including nitrogen. So are the effects of flooding taken into consideration, particularly in relation to cultivated farmland and power dams? That would be for the Clean Waters and Healthy Watershed.
I can try to tackle this one too. I think it overlaps with our sustainable, resilient, sustainable communities. We are looking at trying to expand riparian buffer extent, which might help with some of that flooding and mitigating some of that nitrogen runoff. I don't think we're specifically targeting areas around dams, but we are not ignoring the upper watershed and how farmlands do contribute nitrogen to Long Island Sound.
Great, thank you so much. And this next question is for sustainable and resilient communities and or informed and engaged public. And the question is there any specific targeting of minority communities for engagement, including if they want to know if materials are available in other languages?
I can answer under informed and engaged public. We do have, I think this document is kind of meant to be a bit more high level, but within this goal, we do have an objective where I'm sorry, my neighbors have a giant trampoline, and I don't know if you can hear them screaming. But yeah, so we are intending to have multilingual materials created to the best of our capabilities. And I think also within the public access and sense of belonging objective that we covered, part of that sense of belonging is going to include having events and programs that take into consideration the needs of minority communities to make sure that they help, feel welcome, and to kind of facilitate that sense of belonging in the Sound and those waterways.
And I'll just add, from the sustainable and resilient communities perspective, we do have actions making sure that sort of the types of tools and training materials and such are accessible by a wide range of folks. And under our community-driven resilience planning, we also have, an action related to ensuring that really, underrepresented communities are being heard and in planning processes as well. So I think that's where our goal addresses that issue.
Great.
But definitely let us know if you think we could be doing a better job.
Yeah, definitely. The comments are open to suggestions for how to improve engagement or target more specific communities. If there's a specific community you have in mind, definitely let us know in the comments. Okay, so we have a question that came into the chat, and it says, does Suffolk County have this plan, and what means does the plan have to ensure that the plan is followed in historic sites and Gold Coast mansions? It appears development is happening in FEMA mapped flood zones, independent of nitrogen levels of the adjacent waters, e.g. Huntington Harbor and Coindray Hall Park. I'm not sure if I said that last part correct. I'm not
So
sure. Okay, thank you.
yeah, so Suffolk County will, I'm not sure if this would answer your question, but Suffolk County will have access to this plan, and Suffolk County actually has its own plan, the Suffolk County Subwatersheds Plan, which is a New York State approved 9-element plan that has multiple recommendations and strategies to reduce nitrogen and other, things affecting water quality. So Suffolk will have this plan, and they also have their own plan that was done really well and is very thorough and created in the last 5 years. As far as the piece about ensuring that this plan is followed in historic sites and Gold Coast mansions, that, we didn't directly discuss that. This plan doesn't necessarily have any legislative teeth or anything, requiring municipalities to abide by it or anything like that. So I'm not sure there is any mechanism to ensure that this plan itself is followed, but the issue you mentioned in that comment, I don't know too much about. So, if you want to share a comment through the link and provide some more information, maybe we could get a better understanding of that and see if it is addressed in our clean water objectives and actions.
Great, thank you so much for that. Do we have any other questions?
Isabella, I think there's a new question that's open in the Q&A.
Yeah, so I think that this question open in the Q&A is asking for a little bit more clarity on power dam operations and how they decide when to hold back and release water flow and the effects that that's having with more frequent and severe flooding of farmlands and how this impacts the farmlands. So does the plan address this? Is there a place for this to be addressed in the plan?
So I would say that's a little bit outside the scope of Long Island Sound study. There's different entities that might be involved, whether it's county, municipal, or electric company, or even state company. I don't think the operations of the dam is something that we can address in this plan. It's a good thing to bring up and definitely make a public comment on it, and maybe we can work on trying to mitigate the effects of whatever entity decides to do. But I don't think it's within the scope to change how they hold and release the water behind dams.
Thank you so much. I'm not seeing any other questions right now. Is there anything that panel members would like to highlight about public comments and the public comment you know, kind of what we're looking for, anything that wasn't already mentioned.
I guess the only thing I would say, and Tim gave a great response even just to the last comment, but just more generally, if in doubt, please submit a comment. Force us to respond to your concern and explain to you whether the plan addresses it, and if not, why not. And it may well be that in response to your comment, the plan is changed, and that we do try to address your concern or your area of interest. So if you're hesitant about, is it a relevant comment or not, I would encourage you to submit it and make us respond to it, make us provide you with a formal answer, and consider whether the plan should be modified in response to your input.
Great, thank you. I think that's an important reminder that all comments will be responded to, so definitely reach out. And if there's anything that you're unsure about before you leave your comment, if there's something that you want clarified as you're going through, the email is also available for you to submit clarifying questions. It's consistently monitored, and we have staff available to respond. If there's any clarifying questions that you want answered before submitting an official comment through the form, or through the email. It looks like someone's asking about the link to the comment form, so I did add that to the chat, and it's also available on the CCMP website for the Long Island Sound study. There's a link to the form and also the information for the email, and I believe the link to the website was also shared in the chat. Yeah. So that information can be found, and someone just put the link to the form in the chat again. So hopefully that helps. I have a couple of last tips for submitting comments as we wait to see if there are any more questions, but just a couple of things to keep in mind. Like I said, feel free to email the Long Island Sound Plan 2025 email to ask any questions. When you're commenting, make sure you clearly identify the issues within the document that you're commenting on. That's how you're going to get the best response to the comment that you're submitting. And constructive comments are going to have the most influence. So rather than just saying what you don't like, say what it is you don't like, and then also suggest an alternative. And those are some quick reminders for commenting. Sorry, my Zoom just disappeared. Okay. Any final questions? So we just got another question that says, if volunteer groups who are removing debris are facing resistance in their growing efforts, does the plan provide a guide as to how they may reach their municipality? I'm assuming this means maybe to track the debris removal. No? Okay.
Seems like a engaged and informed public question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure I understand it though. If
How to
you're
get
if you're trying to if volunteer groups are trying to organize debris removal and are facing resistance from their municipality and not having them. Okay, interesting. I don't think the CCMP includes guidance for that. We have an action that is related to helping kind of more local groups that might be interested in local efforts, but it does not go into that kind of detail. But I also haven't heard that before. So that would be an a valuable comment, if you could provide more information on that when you submit your comment. Is it because you don't know how to organize cleanups in your area? Okay, you know how. You're receiving resistance from your municipality. Interesting. Yeah. If you're in, you might want to email us and maybe we can chat and see how we can support you.
Definitely. I think some of the specific questions that we're getting, if you have concerns about specific activities in your area, you can definitely email those to the Long Island Sound email and with, detail, and people will be able to get back to you about that. I want to open it up for any other questions about the commenting process, or how to leave an effective comment. And if we do not have any, then I think that we can go ahead and end and give everyone their Wednesday night back. So I'll leave it open for another minute. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who took the time to come out on this Wednesday night and learn more about the CCMP and how you can provide effective comments, because the public comments really do shape the final plan. And we know that it takes a lot of effort on the community's part to be involved in that process.
Hi, Isabella. There's a question about hydraulic shellfish dredging in the comments too, but I don't know what the context is. I assume he thinks it's a bad thing. I can see how it could be bad with the sediment being stirred up. I don't think we can change how shellfishermen collect oysters from Long Island Sound. It's probably doing the same way for many years. I don't know how we can stop them from harvesting as quickly as they can. So. But if there's more to it than that, feel free to put it in the Q&A or the chat. We'll take a look at it.
And if it is also something that you want a more detailed response to, with specific details, then you can send an email as well. And to the person who suggested a name in the chat, please make sure that you fill out the form. We cannot use any of the information shared in the chat tonight to influence the name change or the final CCMP. We need to have all of those comments in writing through email or through the form, so that we can track them and make sure that they're adequately responded to.
I see the update to the clam dredging. Yeah, it's definitely a disturbance at the bottom. Again, I don't know how we can stop them. Whether they're raking or hydraulic dredging, hydraulically, blowing the sediment around and collecting the clams that way. It's a disturbance at the bottom either way, and it's going on constantly where the clams are and where the clamming is happening. These are, I guess, relatively small isolated areas where the clams are congregating, where they're placed, I think, sometimes to kind of grow out to reach the harvestable size. If you see impacts from sediment kind of drifting with the tides of the currents, that's definitely something we'd like to take a look at. Maybe that could be addressed on a case-by-case basis. But as far as industry-wide, I don't see what we can do.
Thank you, Harry, for that response. Yeah, I think that for a more direct response, that all of these details could be shared in an email with the location and more information. And then Harry or someone else with the appropriate knowledge can get back to you. All right. With that, I am going to turn it over to Mark for any closing remarks. And thank you all so much for your questions and being so engaged with this process.
Thank you, Isabella. Thank you to all our panelists. Thank you all, everyone participating in this informational session. Again, we really depend on your input, your comments. It's critical to having a strong plan. And I would also say that, some of the comments that maybe have less to do with the plan itself, but implementation and sort of ongoing activities. On the Long Island Sound Study website, we've got a list of program partner contacts. Feel free to reach out to have that dialogue and that explanation. So a lot of some of the questions relate to implementing actions and on an ongoing basis. And in addition to commenting on the plan, welcome your reaching out to program partners, contacts, to have some dialogue and at least to understand where your concern is, and are there things that can be done, or at least a better explanation of current programs and policies. So reach out both directly on anything of interest, and particularly we'd love to hear your input on the plan. And so again, thank you all for your interest. It's really important, and really appreciate your time. With that, I think we can say good night to everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.